welcome to this overview of the latest instrument from Dawesome, Kontrast. It's fair to say that Dawesome tend to take a unique approach to synthesis methods, and Kontrast is certainly no exception. At its heart, Kontrast is a wavetable synthesizer, and I wouldn't blame you for thinking that the world doesn't need another wavetable synth. But you could equally argue that a new approach to wavetables is long overdue, and Kontrast incorporates elements of both wave terrain synthesis as well as its unique take on wavetables. To understand Kontrast's approach, let's very simply break down what a wavetable is. It's a collection of short waveforms arranged one after another into a series of slices, and these are usually stepped through sequentially and represented either by a 2D representation of each slice or a 3D overview of each slice of the resulting wavetable. A playback line is often used to represent the points in the wavetable currently playing, and this can be either stepped through or morphed between steps. Kontrast takes a sort of bird's eye view when representing wavetables visually, as explained in this graphic. Waveform peaks are white and valleys are black. But what if you could play multiple areas of the wavetable simultaneously, so that, for example, a sine wave that morphs into a square wave on a traditional wavetable could have aspects of both playing simultaneously? Well, to do that, you could replace the traditional slicing of the audio in straight lines with scan lines that evolve in shape and size in an organic or random way. And that's how Kontrast expands on traditional wavetable synthesis. So let's take a look at that concept in action. The center of the screen is dominated by the wavetable display. If we look at it, you'll remember that the waveform peaks were white and the valleys were black, so the grey areas are somewhere in between. So as I step through the wavetable with the scan line in a traditional fashion from left to right, you'll see that the left side is more blurred with a soft transition from black to white, giving us a sine wave. If I move it to the right, the greys decrease, giving an angular squared-off dividing line between the peaks and the troughs, so we end up with a square wave. And if you think of a sawtooth shape that transitions diagonally from peak to trough, then this area here that transitions smoothly from black to white, with a larger grey area in the centre, represents a saw wave. So to see how Kontrast expands on the familiar wavetable synthesis, let's alter the scan line properties. So the first thing I'm going to do is reduce the size of the scan line. And you'll see that by simply moving it up and down, we're getting a form of pulse wave modulation. Now then, if I create a circle by increasing the circle command, and I'll move it along to the left a bit, and let's flatten it. And enlarge it. You'll hear that we're getting both the sawtooth and the square wave simultaneously. So let's put that in the center now. And if I assign an LFO to the x-axis, so I literally click on LFO and dial in an amount, you'll see that it's moving the x-axis up and down. And so we're going from sine wave through the saw with square as well. And this is the initial principle of wavetable synthesis in Kontrast. You can, of course, take things much further. So you'll see I've selected Abstract from the folder Folds. And let's just have a look at some of the other shapes that can be created using the scan lines. You can create a sync style waveform. As well as PWM. Or the two together. So let's have a look at the rose settings. You can introduce random noise. And the bio. So by experimenting, you can create various sounds from within the wavetable itself. And of course, these can be animated at the same time. You can import your own waveforms by dragging and dropping into the window. And you can even import images to see what unusual wavetables can be created. So here's a waveform that I dragged in to convert to a wavetable. Let's listen to the sound created with a bit of movement. You'll see that I'm modulating the form here under the bio settings, and if I right click on this, you'll see what's modulating it. So you'll see that this LFO is modulating that. It's quite handy when you've got complex modulation routings to work out how everything is routed. So if I go back to an initialized patch, you'll see that wavetables can also be softened by using the blur wheel and intensified by dialing up the contrast. You can also impart character to the wavetable via the vibe control. Warm does what you'd expect, warm up the sound. And modern imparts a wider, more spacious vibe, while console and digital bring out more top-end or more brittle characteristics. So by now you should begin to appreciate what Kontrast offers over regular wavetable synths. The ability to change the wavetable itself via the blur and contrast controls, and play back different regions of the wavetable simultaneously thanks to all the scan controls. As is to be expected of a Dawesome synth, Kontrast offers comprehensive filtering options including a resonator, a full suite of effects, and logical and comprehensive modulation routing options. But rather than go through all the options, let's have a go at creating a few varied patches within Kontrast. I'm going to create a woody Pluck type sound with the help of the modal resonator. So for a waveform, I'm going to select the forms wavetable called folds. I'm going to set the vibe to modern for a wider sound. And here's a neat trick. Each section can be saved away as a preset. So if I go into the scan section and call up my rotating sticks preset, it can really help save a lot of time once you've worked on a scan pattern that you're happy with. Now I need to adjust the envelope for a plucky sound, like so. So I'm heading for the filter section next, and in the modal filter I'm going to impose the resonance of wood to the final sound. So I can balance how much of the woody resonance is imparted on the final sound before I add a delay and a reverb for the final touch. So here I am in the effects section. I've selected delay going into clouds, and I've shortened the release time altogether, and this is the end result. Whilst we're in the effects section, you'll see that each effect can be reordered freely. And if you should overdo things, then don't forget there's a regular and an OTT compressor on the output to help control your levels, as well as a limiter. So let's have a look at the pad that I created earlier called Points of Light. If I hold down a single note, you'll see that I've imported a wavetable, and you'll also see my scan settings here. And I've got the bio command, which is slowly being modulated. To find out what's modulating it, simply right click and hold, and it will show you that LFO there, which if I click on it is the one that's selected, is the one that's modulating that parameter. As you'd expect from a modern instrument, you can set it up for MPE or for specific instruments such as Osmos or Seaboard, and the synth is rounded off by a built-in sequencer with randomization dice and probability options that can be forced into a scale for all sorts of generative shenanigans. So in summary, I believe that Dawesome have come up with a novel take on wavetable synthesis. At first I was a bit surprised that there was only one wavetable oscillator, but that's missing the point. The scan option allows you to read from multiple parts of the wavetable simultaneously, and so harmonically rich tables can yield complex, evolving and organic sounding results. The blur and contrast options help tame or emphasize frequencies in the wavetable, and the 3 available macros help you sculpt the sound mid-performance. The effects section is to Dawesome's excellent high standard, and modulation routing is a breeze. When you add in a comprehensive and well-written user guide and take into account the generous 90-day trial period for Kontrast, then there really is no excuse not to give it a try in your setup. So that's it for this video. Please subscribe to the channel, it's free of charge. Turn on the notification bell, and a thumbs up always helps too. So until the next video, thanks for watching.